Hello, I'm transgender nightmare Jan Ives, and this is my podcast. It's called Lobotomy World. I hope you're doing very well. Before we start, I do have to make a huge, massive apology because I only have one camera today. No, it's not working. You know, usually I'll look to the other camera and then you'll get a sort of a funny back and forth, which really helps, you know, it's like a technique to kind of help communicate the comedic intent of the podcast. But yeah, no second camera today for two reasons. The first reason is, for whatever reason, last week I had a real nightmare editing the two cameras. Not because there was anything necessarily wrong with the editing software or anything like that. For whatever reason, my main camera and my other second camera, which is just my iPhone, for whatever reason, they did not look the same colour grade wise. Now, listen, I know a little bit about colour grading. I can colour grade, okay? That shouldn't be an excuse. You shouldn't expect it straight out the box to both match. But that weird thing happened where the exposure and the light kind of changed midway through the podcast, and it was a long episode. And as a result, I just couldn't get heads or tails to it, you know? I'd edit one bit of colour on one camera, and then the other one would change, and I couldn't get them to match. And there was a part of me that was like, I'm going to just put these in black and white, because that's what you do when you can't figure it out. I'm just going to throw these in black and white. But I decided, no, this week I'm going to just use the one camera, and it's not going to be permanent because I like doing the two camera thing. What I'm going to do is, because I record this podcast, the video of it, on a Sony camera, okay? And I've got actually another Sony camera that I bought a little while ago, which is much cheaper, but it is like similar. So rather than recording on my iPhone and the camera, I'm going to just get the exact same lens that I have for this one, and I'm going to throw it on the other one, and then we're going to have, you know, a cohesive two camera scenario, and then I'll have my phone free. So maybe we could even have a third camera. That would be pretty incredible. Anyway, that's enough tech talk. I mean, what is this? Jen's Tech Tips podcast? No, we don't need all of that tech talk so early on. It's still hot. The weather's still hot. I don't like talking about the weather. You know, that's kind of dull to talk about the weather all the time. But as long as it is this humid, I will be talking about this horrible weather. Oh yeah, I've only got one camera. Sorry, I'm still not used to that. So my hair is frizzy. You know, it goes frizzy. I don't wear much makeup. I've started, I know I made a whole video about I don't wear makeup, but now I'm starting to wear makeup again a little bit. Not foundation, not powder. I'm not going back into that world. For now, I'm done with that world. Maybe only on extremely special occasions. But today, I went to Superdrug. I got a little 3 for 2 deal. I got some lipstick. Okay. I got some mascara. And I got some blush, and what else did I get? I definitely got something else. Eyeliner, that was it. Because, I was looking at pictures of myself from the past when I actually used to make an effort. And I thought, I remember her. She used to care about herself. And I'm just kind of trying to get back into the frame of mind of caring about myself. Do you know what I mean? What do they call it? They call it self-care. Anyway, let's get on with this flipping thing. Okay, we've got so much to go over. I've got a banner show today. I don't want it to go on too long. I'm not going to do like a 3-hour Joe Rogan experience kind of vibe. I'm just going to cover each of these topics, not briefly, but with enough haste so as for you not to get too bored. Okay, here we go. We've covered the lens. We've covered camera gate. That's done. the biggest thing, the biggest piece of news for podcast related news is we did it. We voted on a new mascot for trans people. If you're new here and you don't know what was going on, a couple of weeks ago, I posited this idea that blahage, people were telling me in the comments that I was saying it wrong. I was pronouncing it wrong. It's spelt blahage. People say it's supposed to be blow high. Blow high? How about blow you? How about blow off? How about blow by? That was the message. We were saying bye-bye to blahage. Because, in my opinion, and listen, there were a lot of comments saying like, oh, I love blahage. I don't want to say goodbye. You know, it makes me happy. Tough titties. Because blahage is going not just in the bin, it's going in the medical waste bin where the sharps go. That is a bin that some of us aren't even allowed to handle. That gets disposed of properly by trained professionals. And I don't care, okay? I did this democratically. I did 3 polls on the YouTube to determine what the new trans mascot was going to be. Because, you know, I didn't decide that blahage was my mascot. I didn't vote for blahage. Not my president, as a matter of fact. Based on comments, you know, I looked through them. I considered lots of different options. You know, I heard you out. Don't ever anybody say that Jen Ives isn't a democratic leader, okay? Because I care about the voice of the people. So, for the first round of the new trans mascot, and I have to stress, this is legally binding. Okay, this isn't a thing that you can ignore. This isn't something that you can, you know, think that you can run away from and not implement yourself. When this comes into effect, which will officially be a week from now, all blow high blahage, little IKEA sharks, are going to be taken. I will have people going door to door, taking the stuffed plushy sharks, stamping on them, setting them on fire, shooting them, they're ripping them, they're gone, okay? Blowing them up. You've got 1 week to either dispose of them properly or, I don't know, get them somewhere safe because they're out. The first poll was 4 days ago. If you didn't vote in the poll, what are you doing? You know, this is how bad people get elected. You got to vote. Who are you, Russell Brand? Okay, so the first poll, I gave you 4 choices. And those 4 choices I gave you, based on some comments that I read, were a crochet frog. I'll put pictures up as I say this. A crochet frog, a vintage gonk. If you don't know what a gonk is, it's kind of like a ratty looking bird knick-knack from the 70s. In third, we had hot Bugs Bunny, okay, i.e. trans Bugs Bunny, i.e. Bugs Bunny in a dress. And then 4, we had another IKEA thing, an alternative IKEA creature. And that one is called Jungle Skog. And that is like a big bear, like a huge bear that kind of looks like a Snorlax if you've ever played Pokemons. That's what it looks like. And I like the bear, you know, I've got nothing against, and all of these seem like good enough mascots. All of them seem infinitely better than Blowhige, okay? But the votes came in. Crochet Frog, 12%. Vintage Gonk, 16%. Jungle Skog, the bear, 28%. So respectable. But coming in first, most popular among, how many people voted on this? I don't know, a lot. Like over 100 people. It's hot Bugs Bunny. Trans Bugs Bunny. Cross-dressing Bugs Bunny. Okay. Now, I didn't want to just leave it at that. You know, I wanted to do like a tiered system. I wanted to kind of do like 3 goes of this, just to, because, you know, I'm serious about it. I don't want anybody to feel left out. I want the mascot to be lasting, not like these fair weather blowhargies, okay? So I did a second poll, okay? A second go around. Now, obviously, Bugs Bunny made it through to the second round. So the options were trans Bugs Bunny, Labubu. Labubus are very popular right now. I don't know how much you know about Labubus. They're like little, cute, but demonic-looking, furry things. There's always a furry thing that's popular. This month, it's the Labubu. So we had trans Bugs Bunny, Labubu, Poppy Seed Loaf. As mentioned a couple of episodes ago, as you may or may not know, I've been on a mission to try and find a Poppy Seed Loaf. Can't find one anywhere in the UK at the moment. Not in high street supermarkets, not in big name supermarkets anyway. And then the fourth option, a kind of a wild card that I thought I'd throw in there myself, based on my own preferences. The alien egg baby from the 90s. If you don't know what I'm talking about, okay, in the 90s we had this toy. It was called Alien Egg Toy. And it was like a little rubber alien in a plastic egg surrounded by goop. Okay? You don't know how popular this was. If you weren't around, this was not just a fad, this was like a way of life. We were buying them left, right and centre. When they came out, they were about 50p. Then they went up to about 150. I think now they probably retail about £3.50. And I'll tell you, I bought recently a whole box of them. Not in preparation for this was about a year ago. I bought a whole box of these alien eggs. And I was massively disappointed because they've changed the recipe. Not recipe, they've changed the way they make it, okay? So in the past, the little alien would be like rubber and sticky. And the goo that it was in was like kind of putty. Like you could squish it, right, and play with it. Like, and make it into shapes and things. It had a slight ridgeability. It had substance to it, you know. Nowadays, guess what it is? It's just wet. It's just wet gloop. You can't play with it. It's just like slime. It just goes everywhere. It's almost liquid. Anyway, Labubu got just 4% of the poll. This is from 268 votes. So by this time, everyone's on board. You know, everybody wants to vote. So it's like the whole of the internet. Labubu, a dismal 4%. Now, I kind of like Labubus. I'm not going to lie. I'm not a Labubu hater. I think they're cute. When I see one, I have an overwhelming urge to buy it. Haven't caved yet. Haven't bought one. But I like them, you know. But 4%, that is very poor. And I put that down to the fact that maybe they're too popular. You know, Labubus are very popular. And there's a lot of people claiming Labubus as their culture. You know, and so, you know, everyone wants a Labubu. Everybody thinks Labubu is them. So I can see why the trans community at large wouldn't necessarily want Labubu representing the trans community, because it's like, well, what's different about us then? It's just Labubus everywhere. Poppy Seed Loaf, a much more respectable 19%. I was surprised at how many people did vote for Poppy Seed Loaf. That's very respectable. Alien Egg Baby from the 90s, though. A real show stealer almost. 32%. That's wild. People were really liking the feel of that. I guess that's because a lot of trans people, you know, we do sometimes feel alienated. And also, we're made to feel by society like aliens a little bit. Sometimes. I feel like that, certainly. But unfortunately, it didn't win, because you know what? Trans Bugs Bunny came in with 45% of the gosh darn vote. Bugs Bunny going to round 3. Now, round 3 was exciting, okay? Round 3, we had even more votes, okay? People really, really care about who the new trans mascot is going to be. And I don't blame them. They should care. And it's nice to see a little bit of unity in our community. And I've just realised that rhymes. Has anybody trademarked that yet as a slogan? If not, we should have it. Transgender people, unity in our community. Anyway, the contenders for the big round 3, this is the final round, were Doll Bugs Bunny, obviously, trans Bugs Bunny, whatever, Bugs Bunny. Here's another thing. There was a little bit of criticism in the comments where some people said, isn't trans Bugs Bunny or whatever, isn't it a little bit exclusionary? Because, you know, where do trans men get any representation? You know, you can't have a ostensibly trans femme thing, i.e. Bugs Bunny, be the icon for an entire community. And I said, listen, I take on your points. I considered them. And you are right. But what I would say is Bugs Bunny is very gender fluid. And I do not perceive, the way I was naming it, trans Bugs Bunny, doll Bugs Bunny, all that was just a joke. What we're actually voting for here was Bugs Bunny in general. Now, as we all know, Bugs Bunny can be pretty mask, okay? Bugs Bunny can smoke a cigar when he wants to. Bugs Bunny can lift weights when he wants to. Bugs Bunny he can run fast. He can do so many very masculine things that, as we know, women can't do. I'm kidding. But Bugs will often also, femme it up and sleep with Elmer Fudd. That's just how it goes. Okay, and don't tell me they haven't gone all the way, because they have. I've seen it. There are a lot of banned episodes of old Warner Brothers cartoons. Some because they're racist. Some because they feature Bugs Bunny sucking off Elmer Fudd. Anyway, so we had Bugs Bunny in there. And then we also had Flat Eric. If you don't know who Flat Eric is, this is Flat Eric. Flat Eric was the mascot or, main character in a very famous music video from the 2000s that I'm sure most of you have never seen or heard of. But people really liked Flat Eric. Very popular. A lot of votes for Flat Eric. I think it's because of his general expression. He seems kind. He's a funny guy. Then we had Dinky Duck Beanie Baby. Now, I'll be honest, with Dinky Duck Beanie Baby, what I typed in was the worst Beanie Baby. Just because I wanted to know what the perception of the worst Beanie Baby was. Not that I think trans people are the worst or anything like that. Obviously not. I just wanted to throw a wild card in there, and I also just wanted to know what the worst Beanie Baby was, and it was Dinky Duck Beanie Baby. Then I wanted to do knockoff South Park plush, because I remember these. I've seen these on market stores before, and again, I just thought it was funny. Also, I was running out of ideas, so I just kind of threw that one in there. Anyway, knockoff South Park plush got 3%. Dinky Duck Beanie Baby, despite being the worst Beanie Baby, apparently got 7%. That's way better than knockoff South Park plush. Flat Eric came in with a massive 24%, which is impressive for a largely irrelevant, forgotten puppet from a music video. But Doll Bugs Bunny came in strong at 65%, the best turnout yet. So it's official. Bugs Bunny is now the official mascot for all trans people. Trans men, trans women, non-binary people. All of them, all of us. So, throw away your blowhargies and get yourself some Bugs Bunny apparel. Get yourself some Bugs Bunny plushies. Get yourself some DVDs of the best of Looney Tunes. And you watch the hell out of it, because some of you youngsters got a lot of learning to do, okay? And that's it now. That's confirmed. That's set in stone. No argument. I don't want to hear any moaning. If you're going to be a part of this community, especially this lobotomy world community, then it's about time you got on board with some of the rules. And that's Bugs Bunny. Bugs Bunny is our god. Okay, let's get on to something else. So, there's this event called Parkrun. Do you know Parkrun? I'll be honest with you, I didn't know what Parkrun was before learning about this recent news article, because I don't keep up to date with anything sporting. The only sports news I ever get is stuff that is directly related to sort of like trans and queer issues. That's the only stuff I get. If it's not anything to do with that, it misses my desk. The memo misses me completely. I'll tell you how much I hate sports. This is how much I hate sports. You know when you're reading a newspaper? Sorry, I always forget a lot of my audience is young. A newspaper, it's like a website, but it's on a piece of paper, like printed. And then, yeah, we used to throw them away. It's crazy. Or line hamster cages with them. Anyway, basically, this is how much I dislike sports, okay? In the newspaper, there's a lengthy sports section usually, like loads of pages. I can flick past the sports section in a newspaper so quickly that, ironically, if they made that a sport, who can flick through the sports section of a newspaper the fastest, I would win. I would get gold for that. That's the irony of it. Anyway, Parkrun is basically a running event. Okay, it's a running event. They do them all over the place. As I looked on their website, they do them in loads of countries. It's like a community kind of like good health, encourages good health. They describe themselves as Parkrun is a free community event where you can walk, jog, run, volunteer, or spectate even. Parkrun is 5k and takes place every Saturday morning.
It can be great for our health and do wonders for our fitness. At first I just thought it was a way of getting my steps in, but the more walking I did, I realised how beneficial it actually was. It even helped me to connect with those closest to me, even my dog Lenny. That's why Park Walk is so great. Parkrun welcomes and encourages people from all walks of life to enjoy Park Walk.
So, it's not competitive. That's something that I have to really, really, really signpost. This is just a nice community event. You sign up, you do a 5k, you make some friends, you feel good about yourself. That's basically it. That's the point of it, okay? But I saw in the reputable online newspaper, Pink News, where I get all my news about the pop singer Pink, they said, a Labour MP has criticised Parkrun for being trans-inclusive, following the Supreme Court's controversial gender ruling and the Prime Minister's comments that organisations should get on with barring trans women from female events. Now, I know it's not a big surprise to anybody to hear that a Labour MP is anti-trans. I mean, we used to think, oh wow, Labour, they're kind of on our side. But now they've lost all credibility in that department. It's no big shock that it's a Labour MP, but what is a big shock is that this person is obviously so dumb that they don't even realise that this event is non-competitive. Jonathan Hinder, who has been the MP for Pendle and Clitheroe in Lancashire since 2024, made the comments on Thursday. Here's a clip.
He will know, of course, that national governing bodies set their own policies for who can participate in domestic competition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. More than 2 months after the Supreme Court clarified the law, there remains a very long list of sporting bodies which are denying fairness to women and girls. This includes parkrun and, remarkably, sports like weightlifting and wrestling. The mind boggles. Does she agree that there is no need to wait for further guidance and that these bodies should take the advice of the Prime Minister and get on with it?
So as you can see, this guy is a big, dumb, bald dummy. Okay, now listen, I've got nothing against bald people. Okay, in fact, actually, my dad is bald. Okay, so I can't be prejudiced against bald people because I've got a bald dad. That being said, if you are an annoying idiot, being bald doesn't help. It really doesn't. Really, really doesn't. It kind of like heightens how stupid you seem. And this guy, what's his name? Jonathan Hinder, who, I tell you what, the only thing he's hindering is, imagine I'm on, what's it called? Have I Got News For You? Imagine I'm on Have I Got News For You? Jonathan Hinder, the only thing he's hindering is his chances to become higher up in the Labour Party because of his dumb, bald head and stupid views. It says here that Parkrun has previously been attacked by anti-trans groups because it allows people to self-identify their gender when signing up. Oh my God. No. What's going to happen? No, you can't do that. You can't fun run. You know fun runs, right? A lot of people do fun runs dressed as like Mr. Blobby. Or they do a fun run like dressed up as a car or, people dress up for them. Half the time you don't even know who is doing the fun run because they're dressed like a giant chicken. Like their gender is the last thing you should even be thinking about. It's ridiculous. So what you're telling me is a big, giant, quite intimidating, scary chicken can run a fun run, but trans people can't. Okay, well listen, I was so annoyed about this. It really got my goat. And it got me quite concerned, because although I don't want to participate in any kind of sports now or for the foreseeable future, what if one day I get ill or something and the doctor says to me, you have to do some sort of sport, otherwise you're going to die? What if I ever am in that position? Like, if I'm ever in that position, then possibly I might want to do parkrun, because it does seem like quite a lackadaisical option. So, this Jonathan Hinder, more like Jonathan Hindley, am I right? Who's your mum? Myra Hindley? The killer? The famous child killer? Come on. I thought, well, because he's an MP, his information is publicly available. You're allowed to email MPs. I thought I'll give him an email with my concerns. And I did. This is the email that I sent Jonathan Hinder, MP. Hi, Jonathan. I hope you're having a good Monday. It was on a Monday. I wonder if you can help me. I hope you don't mind me getting in touch, but I'm a trans woman. Sorry. And I was thinking of entering the parkrun. However, I saw that you didn't agree with it. Don't worry, I've decided not to participate, as it would be massively unfair for me to be around other members of society in my current predicament. Trans. Again, I'm sorry. That being said, I did have a few other ideas for potential activities and just wanted to run them by you to get the green light first, considering I'm a trans woman and all. I'm so sorry. Number 1, bingo. I know there might be some argument that as a trans woman, I'm able to press down the bingo marker slightly harder than your average player. I don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable with my presence. Number 2, bowling. Again, I know unfair advantage is a concern of yours, so I would be willing to allow cis women to play with the sides up, and I'll keep the gutters open for myself. Or number 3, Mousetrap, the board game. I know a lot of women are scared of mice and will jump on a chair and shout, "Eek, a mouse!" But as a trans woman, I actually don't have that fear. So I just wanted to check in and make sure that it's okay with you before I go ahead and join any ladies' mousetrap clubs. Anyway, I appreciate you're probably quite busy, what with protecting women and girls in sports, but I'd appreciate whatever guidance you can give me. Best regards, Jen. And, that was over a week ago. I have not heard anything back. I've had no response from Jonathan Hinder MP, which I think is, well, above anything rude. If you're going to gallivant around with that bald head in Parliament, saying what you're saying, you can at least have the common decency to respond to a concerned trans sportswoman, potential sportswoman. Now, here's a slight ultimatum to Jonathan Hinder. If you are watching this, Jonathan Hinder, I know you're a fan. If you don't respond to me I'm going to give you one more week, then, and this isn't a threat, it's a promise, I will email Parkrun and petition to have you banned from it under the grounds that your head, as shiny and bald as it is, would be a dangerous distraction to the other runners and could cause accidents. And that would definitely be unfair. And I'm not kidding, I'll do it. You got 1 week. All you got to do is reply to my email. That's it. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be pro or against. You just have to give me a reply. Show me you're a human being, or else you're going to get banned from Parkrun probably. I mean, look, the reason why this rubbed me the wrong way, right, is because it's very clear, like it very eloquently shows that a lot of these people, these gender critical types, they don't actually care about fairness or competition or the rights of women and girls. They're just blowhards. They're just pandering to the lowest common denominator, and all they really care about, really, at the end of the day, right, is making an environment in which trans people feel socially excluded, because that's all this does. You know, it's a non-competitive thing. It's all about good health, and it's about societal inclusion and, you know, making friends, whatever. And they're trying to make us feel like we are not allowed to participate in stuff like that. And you might say, well, not really. They're just saying that you can't register as a woman. And it's like, yeah, but you don't understand. That is a part of it. That is a huge part of it. You know that is important for trans people. You know what we care about. You know what our whole deal is. If you come out and impose these absolutely ridiculous rules on events like this, really all you're doing is you're just trying to make us feel like crap. And I'm not going to fall for it, because as stated already, you are bald.
Hey, I'm Jen's personal AI advert bot, model 882,374,932. Why not become a member to Lobotomy World? You get access to exclusive members-only videos, and it helps support Jen to do her podcast. Or you can become a Patreon at patreon.com/lobotomyworld. Okay, thanks, I need to return back to the computer mainframe world, so I gotta go by now.
In similar news, in similar event, the next piece of news we have is from BBC, and it is about Camden. You know Camden? Have you ever been to Camden? I've been to Camden. So if you're a tourist in London, you might be encouraged to visit a place called Camden. Camden's cool. Camden's where all the music happened. Camden's where all the rock scene is. And Amy Winehouse was from Camden, and there's an Amy Winehouse statue, and there's a lock, and there are punks on the bridge who wear like a jacket about with the Sex Pistols on it, and it's like anarchy, man. And that's the vibe of it, right? It's this old vision of London that, you know, Camden's still like desperately holding on to. And I'm not a Camden hater. I spent a lot of my teenage years bumming around Camden Lock, buying little crap cigarettes, smoking them, and trying all of the different takeaway foods from the market. And I went to gigs and had a lovely time. Basically, we went to Cyberdog. Cyberdog's like this industrial techno fashion outlet. You go down an escalator and it's like intense music, and you can look at sex toys and be like, my God. It's cool. You know, Camden still has a cool factor, I think. It's not what it was. There was a really great market in Camden, like a cheap market, like a market that was full of knockoff t-shirts and stuff. And you could buy a t-shirt there that said like, people equal shit on it, or, you know, I'm not crazy. My imaginary friend is, though. You know, you could get a t-shirt that says I pooed on it. That was like a play on words of iPod, because iPods were very popular at the time. If you don't know what an iPod is, it's a bit like a smartphone. It plays music, but you can't make calls on it. Unfortunately, that market, it burnt to the ground. I'm guessing maybe the fire was made by fans of a different genre of music, maybe the mods versus the rockers or whatever. Indie kids didn't like us having our heavy metal Camden, and I don't know who burnt it down, but they didn't bother to rebuild the market. Okay, instead they just put a load of like chainy restaurants there, like as in chain, not like Dick Cheney, but like chain, like, you know, it's just boring, it's just dull. And you can't get a cool t-shirt anymore that says on it, hey, stop looking at my eyes are up, hey, my eyes are down there, or something, you know, the kind of stupid t-shirts. that they have. Anyway, there's been some Camden news. A woman has called on her local council to remove 4 road crossings painted in the transgender colours, complaining they infringe on her rights as a Christian. The road markings at Tavistock Place and Marchmont Street in Bloomsbury, central London, were installed by Camden Council and have been in place since 2021. Camden resident Blessing Olubanjo is threatening to bring a legal challenge against what she calls unlawful political messaging. The council said it was a visual statement to help celebrate transgender awareness and act as a reminder of the rich LGBTQ+ history and daily life in the Bloomsbury area and across Camden. And look, that's nice, isn't it? It's a nice gesture, okay? It's a nice gesture, and apparently it's too much. That's what this lady thinks. She's not happy because she's part of the Christian People's Alliance Party, which I believe she is also being propped up by Christian Concern. If you don't know Christian Concern, have a cursory look at them. They seem to be an anti-LGBT, anti-abortion, extreme Christian organisation. So there's a quote on here, and I'll be honest, I don't know if it's from the Christian lady or the Christian Concern organisation or whatever. Like, it's just a general statement, but it says here, the crossing is a visual endorsement of a contested ideology installed by a public authority in breach of its legal duties. This is not the role of local government. Now let's just break this down a little bit. The crossing is a visual endorsement of a contested ideology. Heaven forbid that trans people cross the road safely. Is this what is what they're saying? That they want trans people to be hit by cars? Is that what's being suggested? Because that's what it feels like to me. Now listen, at the end of the day, right, I'll be honest, I don't care about these trans crossings. Like, I like the fact that the council or whatever has gone out of its way to try and make trans people feel welcome. That's lovely. More of that, please. My only concern is like, they don't have to do it in such a kind of dumb way. Like, I don't need a road crossing, really. I mean, what you could do is maybe do a big mural, or better yet, even, maybe you could just make sure that trans people's healthcare is better managed, or, you know, try and increase trans safety, or try to, you know, create more welcoming support groups, or, you know, try to encourage inclusion in communities, and maybe spend less money on, like, you know, kind of empty gestures like this. I mean, I don't want to be too harsh about it, but like, when I see a trans crossing, it does make me feel a little bit like, oh, okay, so you just, I mean, like, what is the message ultimately? I mean, I know it's not the intended message, but if you think about it, having the trans flag on the floor in general and encouraging people to step on it and walk across it until it kind of fades and cracks and gets, you know, needlessly vandalized. It's like, is that spreading a good message about how you feel about trans people? I know it's not intentional, but, you know, psychologically, I think it does, you know, it's hard not to feel like we're being stepped on. And maybe that's the point, you know, maybe it's a statement. Maybe it's a statement like, yeah, trans people are being stepped on, actually, and this is a piece of art to show. Like, if it was a piece of modern art, I'd say, okay, great, that's cool. But it's not, is it? It's just a crossing. So in a way, like, I don't care. But I even so, I still resent this lady, like, kicking up a fuss about it. It's like, come on, get a grip. And finally, the other thing that I have been thinking about a lot this, well, not just this week, but a lot in general, is Palestine. Specifically, though, the thing that kind of like made me think about this is Pride. You know, London Pride. Now, I didn't go to London Pride because I don't really like events of that size, and I do find Pride to be a little bit, it's not what it was, is it? Let's be real. It's not what it bloody was, Pride. But I'm not a hater of Pride. But I just, it has become too corporatized. It has lost a lot of meaning for me. But I did see some news reports of Pride. I saw a group called Youth Demand, okay, which is primarily made up of young people. And what they did is they basically threw red paint on a float for the US-based company Cisco, C-I-S-C-O, not the singer Cisco, who sang the thong song. As far as I'm aware, he has nothing to do with this, okay? But the reason they did that, and I'm just going to read you this from an article here, says, Youth Demand supporters halted the Pride in London parade by throwing red paint and gluing themselves to the float of US-based company Cisco, which has ties to the Israeli military. And, when I saw this, I thought, wicked. This is great, because Pride really has become, as I say, just very corporate. Very, very corporate. And that's bad, generally. The whole pink washing thing is exhausting, right? But more so, that's important than that, is that if there are floats in Pride, okay, that represent companies that have ties to and help fund the Israeli military at a time when there is a very clear genocide happening in Gaza, how can we stand by and just be like, that's okay? Like, that is not okay. Now, I saw a lot of people online going, oh, bloody hell, here we go. They're ruining Pride. Like, why do you have to ruin Pride? It's our one day, and it's not about that issue. Why are you bringing so much politics into it, And anyone who is saying that or thinking that, you really need to reassess, really, because what's happening right now in Palestine is absolutely horrendous. And people like Youth Demand, not people, organizations like Youth Demand and other Queers for Palestine, stuff like that, they are doing the right thing. They are using Pride as a way to actually create awareness. But this is something that I wanted to talk about because I've been thinking a lot recently about the sort of Queers for Palestine, or rather the anti-Queers for Palestine propaganda that I've been seeing a lot on YouTube, Instagram, the news. I've been seeing there's this rhetoric, right? There's this rhetoric that happens at the moment which states, why would queer people want to support Palestine? What does it have to do with you? And often it goes into such egregious territories as, why the hell would you be on the side of Palestine? Don't you know that if you were gay over there, if you were living over there, they'd throw you off a building? If you were over there, you'd be tortured. They don't want your help. They don't even like you. I just want to read you something, okay? In October 2023, Hamas undertook an attack on the Nova Music Festival, which left 1,195 people dead. Awful. And at least 250 Israeli citizens and soldiers taken hostage. Awful. Awful. Terrible. Israel's following bombardment of Gaza has killed in excess of 60,000 people, with around 17,500 of these being children. A further Palestinians, 111,500, have been estimated to have been left injured, with 14,000 more missing or presumed dead. And listen, I'm sure that those figures are under-exaggerated. I'm sure that it's way more than that now. I don't know the official figures, but what I do know is that even if they were accurate, even if it were that, that's not something you can support. You know, it doesn't. Here's the thing, right? This defense, this thing of saying Palestinians don't agree with queer people. Okay, why would you want to help them? Why would you want to care about them? Since when was it a prerequisite that someone has to care about me for me to care about them? And why are we assuming? Why are we making such blanket statements and judgments about an entire group of people? Like, I'm sure the priest at my local church, if you pushed him enough, he would admit that he's not really, necessarily on board with queer people. Does that mean I want a bomb to drop on him and kill his whole family? No, it doesn't. I just don't know when it became okay to look at figures like that and to see what's clearly going on in plain sight and just see the sheer sort of madness of it, the absolutely insane reaction of just killing so many innocent people and then just being like, well, they don't like you anyway. So, I don't care. I don't care what they think about me. What I care about is I don't want them to be destroyed and wiped out. Because here's the thing about queer people, okay? Not all queer people, but something I've noticed generally about queer people is that we do have a very good sense of injustice. We experience a lot of injustice, by no means on the level of what I'm talking about here. But what I'm saying is we do experience injustice, social injustice, and as a result, I think we have, we know it when we see it, okay? For the most part, we know it when we see it, and we empathise with it. This is a genocide, okay? That's what I think. And I know that's a really hard thing to face, and it's a really hard thing to accept. But trust me, it's a much harder thing to be a part of. Also, let's be real here. Queer people have a long history of fighting for causes that don't directly benefit them. Lesbians and gays support the minors was effective because it was a movement of solidarity. Queer people aren't always just walking around only thinking about themselves all the time. I know that's what the media, wants to project, but it's not true. We do have other concerns as well. We do have other political opinions and stances on things. And honestly, the irony is kind of sickening in a way, because a lot of these organizations, these news people, these web organizations, these YouTube channels that make the criticism that queers for Palestine are fighting against their own self-interests, it's funny because they will say well, don't you know that Israel is actually the one place in the Middle East where gay people actually can be? Why would you be against this? These are the same people in the media who routinely disparage and try to delegitimize LGBT people. And then they have the audacity to turn around and say, this is what you should be doing. This is who you should be supporting. This actually is in your best interests. I don't trust you to know what's in my best interests. I'll tell you what's in my best interests. My best interests are not seeing an entire group of people be wiped out. My best interests are to hope that through time and understanding, we can get to a point where there isn't so much disgusting hate in the world. Now, that may sound idealistic, but queer people know that these things take time, okay? And if the choice is to wait and see if a group of people can come around to queer people, or to just wipe them off the face of the earth, guess what I'm choosing? It's not wiping them out. Because if you're pro anything like that, you are sick. You are truly sick. And I'm sorry that this got serious at the end. This podcast is supposed to be a representation of things that I've been thinking about over the week. Like, what I do is I just, make notes on my computer, anything that takes my interest, anything that I feel like is important to talk about, I'll talk about. And one of the big things that's been on my computer screen all week is about the thing that happened at Pride, and then snowballing off of that, queers for Palestine, queers for Gaza. And I've just been getting so many videos recommended to me by things like Sky News Australia and Trigonometry and all these podcasts that talk about this in a way that I think is disingenuous and misrepresents. I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea about what I think about it, and I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea about... I can't speak for all queer people, but I genuinely believe and hope that queer people are smart enough to see through this clear anti-Palestinian propaganda.
Pride Month has just wrapped up with widespread parades across the world. But this year the parades took on a political flavour, with the participants swapping feathers and sparkles for Palestinian flags and anti-Trump garb. And these women in Toronto also sending a very confusing message. And again in Toronto, this group of queer women showed support for both Iran and Palestine with their banner. And in Budapest, the chief virtue signaller herself, Greta Thunberg, found something else to complain about. And there's good reason these activists stay in Western nations to protest, because they aren't welcome in Islamic countries.
At the end of the day, the numbers speak for themselves. Okay? That's just the truth of it. The numbers speak for themselves. And sometimes that's all you can say. So, on that quite somber note, I would like to advise you to attend a protest if you have one in your local area. If you can't do that, I would encourage you to donate to a Palestinian charity or support for Gazan children or something like that. I have put some links, resources in the description. Personally, I donate to UNICEF, and I know money isn't everything, but it is something to some people. If you're in dire straits, it can help. I'm sorry if this was a tough listen towards the end, but I don't care, because I want this podcast to be honest, and it's weekly, and this is what I've been thinking about this week. And not just this week, but this week in particular. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you would like to. There will be a members episode also, dropping probably around now. So if you're a member, you can go watch that. I hope you have a nice rest of your week. And next week, well, I was going to say maybe next week it'll be a fun one. But, we'll see. Next week, it'll be whatever it is. Thank you. Goodbye.